Hey guys, I wanted to try a little something different for my live stream today. And that is, I want to make a song in an hour. So I hope you guys like this. Got my notepad here, my journal, got a pencil, and I got my piano. That's pretty much all I need. So the first thing we're going to do is try and think of like a topic to write about. I like love songs. I feel like love songs are a little overdone, but maybe if it's like more honest, so like an honest love song. I'm thinking about imagery. Stories of times I've been in love, let's see. There was a person I dated briefly that it was really nice and we both really liked each other, but they were on like a completely different path than I was. So maybe there's something there. I like incorporating idioms into like the theme of the song. So, being on a different path is already sort of idiomatic, but like we could even like talk about the road less traveled. Okay, so this is a good start. We've got a decent theme for our song. I'm gonna sing about a story about a time I was in a relationship where everything was going right, but it just happened that we were headed in two different directions. We were on different paths. And so maybe sometimes people say that the road less traveled by is, the better path to take. But, I think everyone has a different path, and maybe that's the song is like, it's about individuality. It's about, you've got to find your own path. And unfortunately, sometimes they split apart, they diverge, which that's from the same poem. Robert Frost, two paths diverge in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. I'm sure most people know the last half of that. I took the road less traveled by, but it starts two paths diverge in a wood, so maybe that's the imagery we're going with. Let's start with music. Now, for piano, there are a handful of keys that are the easiest to play in. Most pianists and music theory people learn the key of C first because it's no sharps and no flats. Guitarists, on the other hand, just because of the comfort of shapes and the chords that are in the keys, they tend to learn G first. G and E minor, piano C or A minor. And then if, depending on what instrumentation we're using, if we're going orchestral, we'll want to skew towards the sharps, so G, D, A, E. If we're going like a band with like brass instruments, we're going to want to go towards the flat side of the circle, so that's, F, B flat, E flat, A flat. So maybe if we pick G, E minor, C, A minor, or F, D minor, I think that would be good. D minor is pretty comfortable for guitarists. It's pretty comfortable for brass players. It's pretty comfortable for pianists. Let's go with F or D minor. Now we need to pick a chord progression. Most chord progressions, 1, 4, 5, 1 is a way of speaking about relativity. For the tonic of the key, the tonal center of the key that you're in is 1, and then it's all relative to the 1, so you go up 4 notes, then 5 notes. 1, 4, 5, 1 is the most common progression in all of Western music. If we're in F, it would sound like this. You can probably hear though that sounds a little like cheesy. Also in the 50s, it was common to do 1-6-4-5, which sounds like this. Which also sounds a little cheesy now. One of the more common progressions we see now is there's a 4-6-5-1, which sounds like this. We could also do 4-1-5-6, which would be. Oh, sorry. That sounds, that's usually like a chord progression you might hear in like bridge or pre-chorus, something like that, because it leads to the 4, which is sort of like unresolved. There's also 1-5-6-4 in F. That would be. Which I kind of like for this. We might play around with some other stuff. And we might be in D minor. So if we're in D minor, we're going to have to pick a different chord progression. We could do 1, 3, flat 6, flat 7. We could also do. Let's see. Variations of 4. We could do 4 major or 4 minor. 4 minor is diatonic. 3, 7. We could do. This is 1 minor, 3. I'm sorry, 1 minor, 4 minor, 5, flat 6. Doesn't have to be a 4 chord song either. It can be 2 chords, like. And maybe this is the verse. It's just 2 chords. If we do 2 chords, we'd probably want to stick with 1-4 or 1-5. So 1, 4, or 1, 5, 1, 5, 5. Then you can do combinations and variations, alterations. Okay, so we've got a decent idea of how to write the words. We have noodled around with a couple of chord progressions. Now it's time to put both of that together. So when I'm telling the story of this person that I was with, I want to look at things that kind of stick out a little bit. For instance, I met her and picked her up from a bar, which is literally the only time I have ever picked anyone up from a bar. So maybe that's my first line. I actually kind of like this variation. 1 4 flat 6 5, because that flat 6 5 could also lead to 4. So now we've got a bit of a rhythm too. Even though it's in a minor key, it's a little upbeat. That's cool. So now I'm gonna try and kind of like fit a line into that pattern. So let's see. Something about going to a bar. My friend's inviting me to a bar. So I'm kind of noodling around with the melody too. Okay, so first line I was working with was, I didn't have any money, but I went out that night. The next thing might be, and because my friend was playing in a band, and then, or because I knew someone in a band, then my friend introduced me to you, we sat and talked all night, and then I gave you a kiss goodbye, something like that. That actually would kind of fit the structure of the song too. So, didn't have any money, but I went out that night. Right now we're not going to worry about rhyming, we'll come back to that. Didn't have any money, but I went out that night. 'Cause I knew someone in the band. My friend introduced us, or introduced me to you. My friend introduced me to you. Kind of fits the previous meter, but my friend introduced us is fine too, because that's just a variation on the meter. It's not like we're cramming too many words in, or, you know, I'm saying something like, it was cold, where it's like so little happening in the verse that it's disinteresting. Let's see. My friend introduced us, we sat and talked all night. And I gave you a kiss before I left. And then here, I feel like we need to go to a pre-chorus form. There might be a different chord I can play there. There it is. changed the accompaniment so that it's kind of traveling along with the melody. I feel like that's kind of important because then even if we change the melody, we've got two melodic lines happening. So now we need to start writing some lyrics down because we've got a good structure for the song. I didn't have any money, but I went out that night. I actually think that's probably good, plus night rhymes with a lot. So I didn't have any money, but I went out that night. Cause I knew someone in the band. That actually all might work for right now, but I'm writing it down just so we don't lose any of it. I didn't have any money, but I went out that night because I knew someone in the band. All right, now we have to decide how frequently do we want to rhyme. Do we need to rhyme money, night, and band, or just band, or maybe night and band? This is like where we get into some of the nitty-gritty. So the next line was, our friend introduced us. So at that point, maybe we talk about having a mutual friend being funny, or maybe that she thought I was funny because that was part of the reason we ended up going out. So, so I knew someone in the band. Told your friend you thought I was funny. Maybe that you told your friend, even though it kind of takes away that it was the fact that like it was our friend and that's the reason we met. You told your because you told our friend a little stilted linguistically. You told your friend that I was funny. We talked. The phrase I'm thinking of is a little tropaic, cliche, but like you talking to the morning light. But I mean, we might be able to use that, especially because we're on a time crunch. You told your friend you thought I was funny. We talked until the morning light. We kissed, you wrote your number on my hand. Now, even though it might be redundant, I like going over what I've just written to make sure that I haven't like missed a beat or something, make sure that it all fits. So, I didn't have any money, but I went out that night, 'cause I knew someone in the band. little tripped up on the second verse because the first verse, the lyrics were sparse, felt a lot more organic, but then trying to get the rest of the point across, I had to use more lyrics, which meant starting with pickup notes. So I'm going to sing it again and make sure that it all actually fits. Didn't have any money, but I went out that night, 'cause I knew someone in the band. Told your friend you thought I was funny. Let's see. So I knew someone in the band. You told your friend you thought I was funny, and we talked until the morning light. Alright. So you told your friend you thought I was funny. We talked until the morning light. We kissed, you wrote your number on my hand. That's a good pre-chorus. So that doesn't give us a lot of like room to work with, like maybe 4 lines, but that's typical for a pre-chorus. So maybe we're building up to the next kind of like monument, the next sort of like landmark of the relationship, which was driving to see each other. It was sort of a long distance relationship. We lived 45 minutes apart. So driving to see each other, it was winter time, so driving through the winter, and just spending a bunch of time together. So let's see. I learned everything about you. Okay, so everything about you. Drove through the winter. I think this is our chorus. I like that a lot, actually. So that's B flat, C, F, D minor, which works because in the key of F, B flat C is 4/5, and then it resolves to the 1, walks down to the 6. So it's like we're temporarily modulating into the key of F, but then we can parallel the B flat to A7 movement that we did in the verse to reestablish D minor. Perfect. Okay, so now I'm just trying to think of the words for the pre-chorus. Driving through something else. Got in my car and drove for an hour. Got in my car and I drove for hours. All right, so what we can do here is, as a rhyme scheme is maybe the first and second line rhyme and the third line gets to kind of do its own thing. So if we're doing that, then we can use hours and flowers, like I got in my car and I drove for hours, which, I mean, it felt like hours. Got in my car and I drove for hours. Came to your house. There was frost on the flowers. Establishes that it's winter. I got in my car and I drove for hours. This is one of those times where you say it's like kind of artistic liberty, creative license to, you know, I didn't have to drive for hours every time I saw this girl. Got in my car and I drove for hours. Got to your house. I came to your house. Came to your house. There was frost on the flowers. Frost on my flowers. And then that could be I learned everything about you. We learned everything about each other there. Maybe that's a little wonky. This needs to be about, like, again, like further establishing the relationship. I want it to convey a bit more of the, like, we really liked each other. We were really on the right path, or we really liked each other. We just weren't on the right path. So, I got in my car and I drove for hours. Came to your house. There was frost on my flowers. We stayed awake and we stayed awake learning everything. We stayed awake learning how we stayed awake learning how well we'd connect. No, we stayed awake. I was trying to go for a line like, we stayed awake learning everything that, you know, we wanted from each other. We stayed awake showing each other We stayed awake showing each other how we like to be loved. I think I'm going to go with something like that. We stayed awake showing each other how we want to be loved. All right, and then let's try the chorus. how we want to be loved. Actually, you know what? I think maybe another verse there before we get to the first chorus. So I went out that night 'cause I knew someone in the band. You told your friend, thought I was funny. We talked until the morning light. We kissed, you wrote your number on my hand. I got in my car and I drove for hours. Came to your house, there was frost on my flowers. We stayed awake, showing each other how we want to be loved. Actually, maybe we go back double the pre-chorus and then we can go into the chorus, and this can be the first because like she was like way ahead of me. She was also older than me, so like that was understandable. I think at the time we dated I was 21, 22, 23 in there, and she was 29. So let's see. If we do I'm trying to think of like maybe drawing comparisons of you had this and I didn't, you had this and not so much, and or maybe like you had this and you had this and I didn't have any of that. I mean, that's not great, but I looked around and would soon discover you had a house, a job, you're a mother. Again, not the best line I've come up with, but I looked around and I'd soon discover you had a house, a job, you're a mother. And then since we're doubling the pre-chorus, we now have to rhyme with loved. I looked around, discover, because that's the end of the first pre-chorus. Want to be loved. Okay, got it. I had been taking the easy path, you're on the one above. So it should go, I got in my car and I drove for hours. Came to your house, there was frost on my flowers. We stayed awake, showing each other how we want to be loved. I look around and I'd soon discover you had a house, a job, you're the mother. You're a mother. I had been taking the easy path, and you're on the one above. get to the chorus, which is I like everything about you, and you like all of me. That's a terrible melody, but we'll fix it. I like everything about you, and you like all of me. We could be happy together. There's just one thing I see. Okay, I'm writing this down because I actually like those 2 lines. We could be happy together, but there's just one thing I see. This is where I want to bring in the 2 roads diverge in a wood line. Maybe that's part of the 4th line, maybe it's part of the 3rd, but I like everything about you, and you like all of me. We could be happy together, but there's just one thing I see. We're taking the best paths. I'm taking the best, I'm taking a path now that's right for my heart. 2 roads diverge in a wood. Okay, that's it. We're each on a path that's good for our heart. 2 roads diverge in a wood, and they're leading us apart. So we're both on a path, both on a different path. We're each on a path. There we go. Each on a path that's good for our heart. Two roads diverge in a wood, and they're leading us apart. Whew. The worst part about doing this so fast is I'm like chicken scratching everything down, so I'm glad I'm recording it so I can go back if I have a question about something I've written. All right. I like everything about you, and you like all of me. We could be happy together, but there's one thing I can see. We're each on a path that's good for our heart. Two roads diverge in a wood, and they're leading us apart. All right. So now maybe we go to the next part, which is that we really did enjoy our time together, and we spent a lot of our time with each other, but there was always something kind of nagging at both of us, which is that we knew that this wasn't going to be a permanent thing. And eventually I had to say, hey, you know, like, just for your own sanity, we should probably pull the plug on this. So spent our time together is hard to rhyme, and with each other is also hard to rhyme, so maybe we spent our time. I don't want to be happy is also hard to rhyme. Spend our time. All right, I'm just gonna write. We spent our time together. We'd always have some fun. And then maybe we both knew, like, there was something about to pull us apart, that we both knew it would only last so long. Both knew it would only last so long. All right. We spent our time together. We'd always have some fun. We both knew it'd only last so long. Oh, maybe we could sing something about weather, like, we spent our time together. We'd always have some fun. We thought that we could weather it out. No, actually, just we saw the changing weather. The changing weather before we'd come undone. That rhymes with fun. We both knew it would only last so long, so rhymes there. Wrong song. I have an issue with the if it feels right, how can it be wrong cliche. We might still play with something like that here, though, because it's not like about feeling right or wrong. It's more about, like, feeling right. It just, you know, it wasn't right for us at that time. Spend our time together, we'd always have some fun, we both knew it'd only last so long. We saw the changing weather before we'd come undone. I just, you know how they say there's no bad ideas in brainstorming? There absolutely are. Because I just thought of like a DJ talking over the last part of a song. Maybe it was right for while it lasted. Okay, now we need the pre-chorus. It was right for while it lasted. Now you know it's wrong. So the pre-chorus should be the I got in my car and I drove for hours. That should be it was in our heads, but we couldn't say it. Oh, actually, say it. Couldn't. Say it's going to be hard to rhyme. Unless we can go. This was the game we chose to play it. I'm gonna go with my heart is full, but I can't look in your eye. That way because I want the last line of the pre-chorus to be something about saying goodbye. So I'm setting up the rhyme in advance. It was in our heads, but we couldn't say it. This was the game, we chose to play it. My heart is full, but I can't look in your eye. I'm trying to think of a synonym for like done and over. Finished. I'm going to say all through. both have to do. We said, I love you. When we really meant goodbye. This should work out very nicely. All right, so it was in our heads, but we couldn't say it. This was the game. This was the game. We chose to play it. My heart is full, but I can't look in your eye. Please just kiss me before it's all through. We know about. We know what. We know that. We know what we both have to do. We said I love you when we really meant goodbye. Forgot how the chorus goes. I like everything about you, and you like all of me. We could be happy together, but there's just one thing I see. We're on a path that's good for our heart. Is that right? We're both on a path that's good for our heart. Two roads diverge in a wood, and they're leading us apart. Oh, yeah. They're leading us apart. Oh, yeah. They're leading us apart. Oh. So there we go. We wrote a song. I say at this point, I'm going to check the time and see how long this took, but let's play it all together and hopefully we have it run over an hour. Hope you enjoyed one of my writing sessions. I do this on a near daily basis, and I'm thinking about maybe starting a series, I guess, where I write a song every day and just show you the highlights of me writing the lyrics and writing some of the music and then the finished piece. Okay, here's the whole song. Didn't have any money, but I went out that night, 'cause I knew someone in the band. You told your friend you thought I was funny. We talked until the morning light. We kissed, you wrote your number on my hand. I got in my car and I drove for hours. Came to your house, there was frost on my flowers. We stayed awake, show each other how we want to be loved. I looked around and soon would discover you had a house, a job, you're a mother. I had been taking the easy path, and you're on the one above. I like everything about you, and you like all of me. We could be happy together, but there's just one thing I see. We're each on a path that's good for our heart. Two roads diverge in a wood, and they're they're tearing us apart. Yeah, they're tearing us apart. We spent our time together, we'd always have some fun. We both knew it'd only last so long. We saw the changing weather before we'd come undone. It was right for a while it lasted, now you know that it's wrong. It was in our heads but we couldn't say it. This was the game and we chose to play it. My heart is full but I couldn't look in your eye. Please just kiss me before it's all through. We know what we both have to do. We said I love you when we really meant goodbye. I like everything about you, and you like all of me. We could be happy together, but there's just one thing I see. We are both on a path that's good for our heart. Two roads diverge in a wood, and they're tearing us apart. Yeah, they're tearing us apart. Oh, they're tearing us apart. I like everything about you, and you like all of me. And we could be happy together, but there's just one thing I see. We're each on a path that's good for our heart. Two roads diverge in a wood, and they're tearing us apart.